I'm really excited to bring a new friend to you today. It's funny how you run into people or people are referred to you or someone tells you about someone you have a mutual acquaintance. So this is who my guest is today, Amanda Fortin. She happens to be a friend of a mutual friend. We have this person in common and she said, "Oh my gosh, you've just got to go talk to Miel." She has this podcast and so we connected and here we are. Today I've got Amanda with us. She is a midlife stepmom, a high school teacher, a Reiki master, and a life coach. She's also got a podcast called Nurture Herself because she really feels like she needs to have a place where people can learn how to take care of themselves. She aligns her knowledge of self development and self care, Reiki, and education with over 10 years in teaching high school students to strategize, plan, and learn how to advocate for themselves, creating programs, community events to help other women nurture themselves. So I think it's really fabulous that there's this alchemy of what we're trained to do, what we go to school or college for, and how we take our life experiences and morph all of that together to create these new ventures, these new opportunities to bring our message forward of needing to really peel away the clutter and get back into the heart of everything, which is, no pun intended, the heart. And so, without further ado, let's get rocking and introduce Amanda. I think you're going to find her just delightful. Hey guys, you're listening to the Energy of the Untamed Heart podcast, where we talk about uncaging your divinely gifted wild heart to be as free and expansive as you were born to be. My goal is to use our stories, guest interviews, and your questions to tease out what has been keeping your wild heart under wraps. I'm your host, Miel Fox, and together we will shatter the myths of our old stories to set our wild heart free. So thanks for choosing you and showing up today. So here we are back in the room for the Enter the Untamed Heart podcast, and I'm so excited, Amanda, to have you with me today. And I would love for you to introduce yourself and just let the listeners kind of know a little bit about who you are and what you do, other than the bio that I told everybody. But you give you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me on here. I learned about you and your podcast through a mutual friend, and I have so enjoyed listening to this podcast. So I'm definitely honored on being here.
Well, thank you. It's
My name is,
fun.
yeah, yeah, I love it.
Yeah,
My name is Amanda. I also live here in northern Vermont, like you. So, like you said, when sunny days come, they are far and few between. So, I'm pretty happy for today. I
absolutely.
teach high school up here. I'm a high school teacher up here. I do 504s, which is kind of just helping out kids with accommodations that they might need in the classroom. But I am also a Reiki master and a life coach. I'm a stepmom. I have a couple rescue dogs that I love so much. And that's pretty much me living up here in Vermont, trying to get through sunny day to sunny day.
So I just love that you say this. And, as you're speaking, my inside younger me is going, oh, God bless her. So I was the defiant high school student. I was, the teen that thought they knew everything in the world. I was also very academically like the high achiever for lots of reasons, which as now I'm in my 60s, I'm like, oh, now I get it. I see it. But back when you're struggling with everything, your home life and your hormones and your schoolwork, and am I accepted by my peers and all the things, to have educators and other staff members in the high school who are able to hold the space for you really makes a difference. I'm a little archaic, so I went through high school in the 70s and 80s, and it was a very different environment then than what I'm gonna say I think it is now. So, it
Yeah.
is such a gift and a blessing to these high schoolers now to have someone like yourself on their side, because it was not quite as, shall I say, spacious and open to all the different things back in my day. So, I honor you,
Mhm.
I appreciate you, I thank you for what you provide to our education system. I'm in healthcare as my full-time job still, and every time I speak to somebody in the education system, I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful, and I'm reminded, like, we all have our gift. We all have our whatever it is that we do and share and offer to the world, that we're definitely meant to share that in a very particular way. I happen to know, although I love to teach, I could never be in the education system because of my defiant
Mhm.
personality. I would be like, "Oh, no, we are not doing it that way." So, I just love that you are able to bring all of these things together and make, like, the perfect pie, right? Like, the life coach, the Reiki practitioner, the assistant and educator component for high schoolers who are struggling. Let's face it,
Mhm.
you're in your teens. Who knows
Mm.
what your home life may or may not be like, single parent, dual parent, or nowadays could be four parents. Who knows? I don't know. Your hormones. What am I going to do with my life? Oh, the peer pressure, all of it. So I love that you
Yeah,
have
there's so much.
created the thing.
Mhm.
How did you
Yeah.
go
It
from I teach to I coach?
well, I started teaching, I think, because I think in school, I was a little defiant, but I saw a lot of the high flyers get a lot of attention, and I saw a lot of the behavior students get a lot of attention, and I was somewhere in the middle, and I felt like I really just kind of got ignored and kind of lost in my way. So I became a teacher to be like a cheerleader and an advocate for all the students is what I really did. And I became an English teacher because I love to read and write, and I love that part of it, but then in the midst of that, the 504s kinda get shoved onto me. I think, like, in your world and in my world, like, jobs just kinda get shoved onto you. So, these 504 cases got put onto me, and I ended up really loving them and falling in love with them because I get to work with students one-on-one, and I really get to be their cheerleader, and I get to be their advocate and teach them how to advocate for themselves, which is like so important in life is be able to stand up for yourself and know your rights and know what you need and what your body needs. And I think I have become like a real landing place for students to come to and to be with. And especially after COVID, like high school life is so different than when we were growing up, just social media. And now after COVID, I have so many students with like anxiety and depression. And it can also be things like ADHD or hearing or, Crohn's, but really those ones with the mental issues like anxiety and depression have skyrocketed after COVID. And they really need someone who understands them and can be there for them and cheerlead with them. And for me, that goes right into my coaching because that's what my coaching is all about as well as, helping women find the tools and the strategies that work for them. Oftentimes it's the same tools and strategies that I use with my students, like regulating your nervous system, listening to your body, taking time to be still. All of those tools and strategies I also use with women in my coaching. I don't necessarily use the Reiki on my students because I don't know, that's a fuzzy line. In my coaching, I definitely do the Reiki, and you also get certified level 1 and 2 in my coaching, but they just blend. I found they really blended. So when I was looking for something more, when I was looking to just kind of self-develop and create a journey, I found a passion for coaching women as well. So they're very intermingled, very connected, I think.
I think they
Yeah.
are. And
Mhm.
what I really love in what you said is what you choose to share and teach in your coaching programs for your adult women are the same foundational basics that honestly everybody of every age needs. I don't think it's like you have to reach a certain age before you can understand, embrace, and integrate what I consider to be foundational tools to navigate life.
Mhm.
For me,
Absolutely.
and the listeners know if any, I mean, I don't know what episode we're on, but you've heard me say we all need someone to walk a piece of our path home to our hearts. They're not
Mhm.
dragging us kicking and screaming. They're not saying, here you go, here's what you have to do to get there. But by walking, in imagery, hand in hand, or holding space while whether it's your student and your client learns how to use tools to navigate the challenges that everybody faces. That's the thing, we're humans, we're here on earth.
Mhm.
You're going to hit the challenges and it is what it is. But to be able to have one support through various environments, whether that's your school environment, your work environment, your home environment. And two, to have somebody who says, I support you, but I'm not going to carry you. I'm going to
Right.
share with you. I'm going to walk with you. I'm going to model how one could do things. And that modeling of behavior and what is possible was not there for me in my high school years.
Mhm.
I don't know what it was like for you, but we had, like most schools, you had your curriculum. And of course, you had the principal's office when things didn't go right. And you had a quote unquote guidance counselor assigned to you, and dare I say, with very I don't know what it's like nowadays, but in my day, your guidance counselor was sort of like some guy that didn't really necessarily make it selling cars down street, so we thought he'd be a guidance counselor and tell teenagers what they should do with their lives. And they sort of kind of round pegged you like, oh, you type 150 words a minute and you can add 2 plus 2. Therefore, you should be an actuary, an accountant, a whatever. And in the
Mhm.
meantime, you as a naive, haven't really seen the world 17, 18-year-old are thinking, what? But what about my dreams? But what about, my this, my that? And so I think it's a bit different nowadays that there is a support system available for our younger
Mhm.
generation to get some guidance that isn't here. Let me just plug you into a hole and tell you these are the 5 career paths that you could potentially take. So again, I really want to honor you for being in that position. But the other thing that really stands out so much is that what you're saying, these are foundational pillars to navigating life. I'll just put it
Mhm.
that simply. The capacity and the ability to learn how to regulate your nervous system is massive. And there's lots of ways to get it done. It doesn't have to be any one way.
Mhm.
So the 2 questions I have is, one, for listeners who may not understand what you're saying when you say a 504 caseload, if you can give a quick
Mhm.
descriptor so listeners are sort of on board with, like, what does that mean? And
Yeah.
two, the quick refresher, I'll have you describe how you feel the Reiki is serviceable in how you bring what you bring to your clients. Most
Mhm.
folks are very familiar with the term Reiki, but they may not
Mhm.
necessarily really understand what is it, like, what's it all about. I do, but I'm going to let you explain it, because I want to
Okay.
hear it from you.
Okay. So 504s are for students who have a diagnosis from a doctor and they need a little extra support in the classroom. And lots of times the teachers are already doing it, but it's nice to have the plan in place. So in case the teacher can know, the teacher can make sure they're doing the accommodations. So it really is a diagnosis that can range anything medically from, like I said, hearing to seeing, and then it can go down the range to, anxiety, depression. It can also be somebody for like Crohn's disease, anywhere where they might have to have a couple accommodations in the classroom that might look, they need to leave the classroom 5 minutes early to avoid the halls. They might need to sit, more forward in the classroom so they can see or hear better. A lot of my students with anxiety have, like, maybe they don't call on them for the first semester of class and then gradually start bringing it in. So any of those little, and they're very personal, and so I really work with the student on creating a plan that works for them, and it's also a plan that's very fluid. So as they grow and they become seniors, they might not need all of the ones that they first had when they were freshmen. So it evolves with them, which I like that process.
Really
I hope that
helpful.
explained it a little
Yes, it
bit
does.
more.
It's super helpful.
Okay.
None of which
Okay.
existed back in the day, by the way.
Yeah.
Just saying. Yeah,
No, I don't
didn't.
remember those. Definitely
Nope.
not.
Nope.
And I really do work with those students with how to ask for that help when they come in as freshmen. I mean, they are scared to talk to teachers. So we really work hard on, like, okay, these are your accommodations and they work for you. So I might tell the teacher first, but you're standing next to me. And then you tell the teacher and I'm standing next to you. And then you tell the teacher and I'm nowhere around. So we really build up through the years of how they can really talk and speak out for what they need. So I
Yeah.
think that's really important too. Reiki in my coaching classes was the next question, I believe.
Yeah.
So I have recently just integrated it. So I just really, I mean, Reiki to me really changed my life. I came into it a few years ago, and I feel like Reiki really helps you open yourself up to healing. That's the thing. Like it really lets you align yourself and open yourself up to healing. And only you can do the healing. I think we all know that we all have to do the work to get where we need to be. But Reiki is really that gentle, effective, energized way of letting that happen. And so, because my coaching program is about tools and strategies to help you in your life and help nurture yourself, because that's what it's called, nurture yourself. I really think that I really wanted Reiki to be a part of that. So I'm like, well, we might as well and I love teaching, obviously. So I put you could get certified level 1 and 2 into the program because it's such a huge tool. I mean, even with just getting level 1, then you can give Reiki to yourself. You can just start that daily practice, even if it's 5 or 10 minutes every single day, giving Reiki to yourself, letting yourself heal, letting yourself be open to receiving and healing. And I think that's a huge tool that has helped save me. So I wanted to put it in the program so that it was already there for them. So that was my theory of it. And other than I have a passion for it and I have a love for it. And then with level 2, of course, then they can give it to other people as well. So you can leave with another tool to even have a side gig if you want, or just be able to help other people in your family if you want. And I think we all know that when you get to help other people, that really helps you as well. It
Absolutely.
makes you feel better, and yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it was a win.
Yeah.
Mhm,
So what I really love in what you say is there are some modalities, there's several modalities that are absolutely nervous system regulators,
mhm.
energetic realigning modalities that for the listeners I want them to know these are things that you can learn that require no special fancy equipment, that require nothing
Yeah.
more than your intention for betterment of your being physically,
Mhm,
mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and to have these different tools in your pocket. And there's quite a
mhm,
few. There's the Reiki, and there are various breathing techniques, and there's tapping techniques, and there's just so many opportunities. And part of what we talk about here in Energy the Untamed Heart is the love language from universe to us as humans comes in all kinds of forms because not everybody, just like a college student, a high school student, a grammar school student, we all learn differently. Some of us learn visually, some of us learn auditorily, some of us are by touch, tactile learners, some of us
mhm,
are in a space that doesn't include any of those things, and we bring information in very differently. Some people do it through movement and dance, some people do it through the written word. So the what I call the love language that you receive, the messages that you're designed to hear, get, grasp, integrate from whatever it is you want to call what's beyond here in 3D, universe, God, spirit. I think it's spectacular that there are multiple modalities to help us get into an energetic position or place that is a little bit like turning down the la 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 of your head and opening up the speaker bandwidth of your heart to hear those messages.
mhm,
And the Reiki, I feel, is such an important facilitator of that. So it's just a really amazing share that you're offering to your clients through the coaching, that not only do I give you these life skills to help you navigate, but I'm going to give you some tools that when you get in those moments, because here's the truth, life throws some
mhm,
at you. And sometimes you're like, oh, I don't even know. Like, I just don't even know. And when you're in that, I don't even know, it's because your nervous system's all out of whack. So to have that, like, oh, but I can remember Amanda gave me this tool, and here's how I can use it to bring myself back into myself so that I can respond versus react. It's a
mhm.
beautiful bonus gift component to your coaching package, which I think is fabulous.
Thank you.
So you
Yeah.
did say, as you were describing this Reiki, this has been tremendously helpful for me in starting to work through and heal myself. And you certainly don't need to divulge any details, but would you be willing to share with the audience? Because clearly there was something that made you say, is there something else I need or could be doing? Like, what is it I
Mhm,
need? Which obviously
mhm.
led you down the path of let me
Okay.
learn this modality.
Definitely. Well, I think it was a long time coming, obviously. That happens with a lot of us, I feel. But, in my 20s, I went through a lot of stress that I held inside of me. And I didn't know all of these tools. I didn't even know what regulating your nervous system was. I had never heard of Reiki. So I ended up getting Crohn's disease, one of the ones that I mentioned earlier. So I ended up getting Crohn's disease, which is a digestive issue, and had to have operations where they removed part of my small intestines. And during that process, I didn't even know it, but a lot of what I did to help me through that pain and through that time was getting still, it was breathing, it was putting the hands on my body, and learning how to deal with my stress better. So that was definitely starting the journey. And then really came to a point. I got married kind of later in life. I got married when I was 35 ish. And he brought in two amazing, beautiful stepdaughters, but we had like this instant family. And that always has a lot of instant baggage as well. I feel like, I was very independent. I wanted to control everything. I had controlled my whole entire life up until this point. So I was very in control. And what you have to learn very fast is you're actually not in control of anything else in your life other than how you are and how you react. That was something I still learn to this day. Now they're teenagers, so I'm learning that all over again. But it caused a lot of communication issues. We went to a therapist, we did lots of things, but I remember there was definitely this one point where him and I were having a fight about baggage and how we were dealing with it. And I got so mad. I know you guys can't see, but I have red hair, and that definitely comes into play sometimes in my life. I got super mad, and I had my phone in my hand, and I like banged it on the shelf so hard. And in that instant, I just saw red, and that scared me. I was like, oh my God, I'm so mad. I am seeing red. And now that I've gone through all this practice, I can kind of reflect back. And I think my body was really saying, your root chakra is so not here. Like I thought it was angry red. I really think it was my root chakra saying, you're totally unbalanced. You're totally not rooted. But it was a signal to me that I need to change my life. I need to do some things. And it really started the big jump into self-development and how to take care of myself, and knowing that like I can't keep showing up for myself this way, and I can't keep showing up to my family this way, because things aren't going to work if I do that. So that started the process of really joining groups and researching. And, like I said, like I've mentioned, I am a teacher, so I research the heck out of everything. I love to learn, take classes. I mean, it's been nonstop. And I really think that's what this journey in life really is about, is self-development and learning over and over again how to do things a little bit better and learn about yourself, and learn the tools. So each time I get into that predicament, it's a little bit easier because I have some tools, but it's continuously learning. And in that process, it led me to Reiki. Actually, one of my friends was offering it online. I was like, I don't know. I was at the time like, maybe I'll become a massage therapist. It was right after COVID, so teaching was really, really hard. And she offered that. And I was like, I don't know what that is, but something in my gut like really pulled me. And I kept going back and going back and going back. And finally, I'm like, I'm just going to sign up. And I still, when I signed up, had no idea what any of it was about. And then it completely changed my life. Because for me, Reiki kind of takes in all of that, all the steps that I've learned about regulating my nervous system, like listening to my body. It makes you stop, it makes you slow down, it makes you breathe, it makes you look inside of yourself. It is, all of those things that I was learning that is good for regulating your nervous system. Plus, it was healing energy. So for me, that was really the game changer. And that I can do it to myself is amazing. I mean, I could be, waiting to enter a basketball game and be in the truck and just be like, all right, I'm going to give 5 minutes and I'm going to sit here and give myself Reiki before I go in. And I also love the fact that you can, everything is made up of energy. So I can do this to everything, right? Like my dog's laying beside me. I can do it to my dog. I can do it to my daughters. I've done it to my daughters numerous times. They really enjoy it. but also like we took a trip this winter, and so I like Reiki'd the trip and the airline, and we got to the Airbnb and I Reiki'd the area. Like it just brings calmness and peace to everything in my life, I feel like.
It's beautiful. So
Uh,
again, for listeners, when we talk about like I Reiki, the airline tickets and the airport and the
mhm.
trip and the kids and the dog and the this and the that, the underlying common denominator for anyone who is unfamiliar with what does that really mean? The answer is in exactly what Amanda said, which is where everything is energy, everything you, where you live, where you go, what you look at. We are over 99% energy and less than 1% what we call particulate matter. And so the Reiki is the moving of life force energy being everything within you and outside of you in that interconnected, woven spiral of life, I guess is the best way I can say it. And I also really love that it's really funny. It's like, by the way, folks, this is not rehearsed. I just want you to know this is just like going on the fly. But isn't it interesting that Amanda is hitting like on all the key points that anyone who listens to this podcast probably hears repeatedly, but it comes through in different ways depending on what we're talking about. And it's things like I wasn't rooted in my root chakra. Okay, well, you don't necessarily need to 100% know what your root chakra is, but the message behind the message is, and I wasn't really grounded within my body, and I wasn't
Mm,
really in a place of understanding how can I be centered and balanced in myself so that I can be centered and balanced in what goes on in my world around me. And so that Reiki provides that conduit of moving the energy in such a way that you can go from I'm not grounded, I'm flighty in my mind and my emotions and my movement to okay, whew, I got this. I'm back here, and your message of you never stop learning. Again, here's another thing. It's so funny. I don't know if you've been listening to the podcast frequently or not, but my gosh, it's like, whoa. My personal belief system, and leave it on the table if it doesn't fit for you, it's fine. But I believe that we are here in this lifetime on earth to be both the student and the teacher. And that
mhm,
piece of going through our journey truly doesn't end until you leave. So don't be in a hurry because there's a lot to learn, there's a lot to teach. But that's really the game. We're here in Earth
mm,
School to be both the teacher and the student. Granted, you can't be both simultaneously in the exact same moment, I don't think. But yeah, so sometimes you're learning all the stuff like the student, and sometimes that's really hard
mhm,
learning. And
mhm,
other times you're teaching it to somebody else
mhm,
through what you do, through your modeling, through your words, through whatever the medium may be. But at the end of the day, the message and the end point is to me the same, that we are all connected through this energy. Hence, why can you provide your Reiki to things that are not directly in front of you? Because it's energy and it transmutes from here to there. And of course, with today's advent of technology, isn't that nice? You can offer distance services. I love that you do offer this service for your dog, who I know appreciates it because I have actually used my Reiki knowledge. So I'm a level 2, but I don't
mhm.
actually use it in a business. I do it for my animals, actually. That's why I did it. I'm like, "Oh, I
Yeah,
need to do this for my animals." And I've used it on my horses. I've used it on the dog. I've used it on the cat. I mean, it's just wonderful to have something. It's
yeah,
just it's
yeah,
just so huge. To
mm,
me, your Reiki services and your awarenesses and your techniques that you bring forward for your clients is very much like the subtle small shifts and changes and systems that you offer to your students. It's
mhm,
just coming through in a slightly different way. But again, it's how do we as souls in a human expression navigate our earthly challenges? And I
mhm.
think a lot of what you're sharing is it's the ticket, it's the GPS to your heart, man.
Yeah,
I mean, really, that's what it feels like.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It definitely
Yeah.
feels like that to me. It feels very aligned. But
Mhm.
I also think the great thing about this journey is that we wouldn't learn any of this if we weren't on a journey. and sharing these stories. And that's one reason why I love podcasts, but it's also, one thing that I love to do in general is really get women to use their voices more and tell their stories. Even being a stepmom and telling my stories about it, being a stepmom and telling stories about being frustrated in a relationship and frustrated with life, but then how I got over it as well. Even when I'm with friends, but also with my clients, we can kind of get stuck in just kind of griping about our days, or, not talking very positively about our days. And there can be a time and place for that, but we also need to share the stories of how we overcame that and how we made our
Absolutely.
days better, because I think that's really the key is using, and we have so much technology, like you said, now where we can share those stories and know that we aren't alone. And, maybe somebody's listening who's in a tiny, tiny town like we are. I kind of get like stuck in my own house, in my own environment, and I start thinking I'm the only one who's going through this. I'm the only stepmom who's going through this. I'm the only teacher who's going through this. I'm the only wife, whatever it may be. But when we start sharing our stories, we can be like, "Oh my gosh, there's so many of us out there. So many of us out there that are going through this. And how did you get through it? Oh, this is how I got through it," and just really lift each other up, which I'm so thankful for a podcast for that reason.
It's an amazing stream of consciousness available for people. I
Mhm,
know that sounds very tacky, but I really mean it. I mean it
mhm,
streaming because yeah, it streams, but I mean there's lots
mhm,
of ways to gather, and where now people are very much spread across the world here, the advent of the technology that we have available to us is one means by which we can now reconnect, because truth is the way our world has been moving along, there's always good and bad to everything, but we've become far
mhm,
more separate. We've been
mhm.
kind of put into this, you're separated, you're kind of pushed away from the whole community connection thing. And I think it really came to the forefront with the whole COVID event because we had no choice. Everybody had to stay home. And by virtue of that, sure, staying out of the mainstream may have been beneficial in this way, but it was not beneficial in this way. And so I
Mhm.
think there's a lot of need, I don't want to say demand, but there's a need to remind humanity that we're not here to be separate. We're here to be individuals in an authentic way. That level of
Mhm.
individuality, like I am different, I am unique in my being as I choose to
Mhm.
experience this life. It just as you are different because of the way you choose to experience life. But our connectedness is that we're the same. We are from the
Mhm.
same, we're going to the same, we are the same. We are not meant to not be in some level of connection and community. And so I think the beauty of something like a podcast is that it
Mhm.
is a means through which people can reconnect, and as you
Mhm.
said, everybody wants to feel seen and heard. Everybody,
Mhm.
not just little kids. Everybody wants to feel seen and
Mhm.
heard. And people want to feel validated in their feelings, not necessarily like, oh, we condone, somebody who runs around smashing cars and that's a validation of their anger. I'm not suggesting that. I'm saying everybody wants to be acknowledged as another human being and
Yeah.
accepted just for being on earth. There you go. There's a lot of little details in here that someone's going to say, I know someone's going to say, well, wow, 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 wow. Okay, listen, you're entitled to your opinion. It's okay. This is just a conversation. I think it's so important that people struggling and going through struggle really understand you are not the only individual experiencing that type of a situation. The details might be
Mhm.
varying a little bit, but to know that you're not on your own unless you choose it. And there are people who
Mhm.
say, nope, I can't, whatever, that's okay. And also, you pointed out to not just have like a pity party, because I think the pity party draws in the whole thing. Like, do I stay and live in my old stories? Do I stay and live in my, what my version of my drama versus my reality or what I want or where I want to be? And to share a story, but not have Mm. An expectation that the story needs to validate some not necessarily proactive choice or habit in your life. It,
Mhm,
the story is valuable. And if you think about it, it's very interesting because in other cultures, years and years and years ago, storytelling was the pathway to bringing forward culture, tradition, memories, information. It wasn't, let's just sit down and have a bitch fest. It was actually the telling of
mhm,
story. And somewhere along the way, I feel like we as a collective have lost our voice. Or
mhm,
we have chosen not to use our voice. And so a lot of, myself included, the coaching industry, the healing industry, the spiritual industry, the people who are just the self development industry, we're just trying to share the love, basically, and say,
mhm.
use your voice because your voice matters. Yeah.
Yep.
So, where do people find you? Tell me where people can find you if they want to know more about what you do, how you do, when you do, where you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All those good things. Well, I have a podcast too. It's called Nurture Herself. I'm on Instagram, Amanda May Coaching, on Facebook, Amanda May Fortin, I think, because that's my name. I think that's what it is. So those are really the places where you can find me and learn more about me, for
Beautiful.
sure.
I'm going to
Mhm,
put all the information
mhm.
in the show notes so it's easier for people to
Okay.
just click on a link
Yeah.
so they don't have to worry about spelling and any of that. I will let
Right.
you go and I love it, love it. Thank you for your time
Thank you
and
so much. This was really
so fun.
great. Yeah.
So fun. I
Very
appreciate
fun.
it. Okay, everybody,
Yeah.
tune in next time. We're going to continue again with another episode here on Energy of the Untamed Heart. And that's a wrap.